welcome address.
Good afternoon. Respected Principal Dr. Vishnu Joseph, Assistant PhD Chairman Dr. Alex, and our Chief Guest today, Mr. Vishnu Swaminathan, the Country Director of Ashoka. Respected faculty colleagues of the dais and my dear Rajagirians. Today, a long cherished dream of myself and of Rajagiri itself is coming to fruition, where we always had a dream of starting a club which focuses on entrepreneurship, especially on social entrepreneurship, because that is what delivers value to the society as a whole. And I understand that well begun is not even 1/4 done in terms of a club activity. We have to go a lot of way forward in terms of taking this club to the next level of making it one of the most sought after clubs of Rajagiri. And we also need to set standards for any kind of student-driven activities which happens in the campus. And for that, I have a wonderful team of volunteers and coordinators here. I would please request those volunteers to just say their names, stand up.
My name is Ashwin, I'm the coordinator for the Data Automation.
My name is Ashoka. I was member of ICC.
My name is Rashmi. I'm a member of the Social and Entrepreneurship.
My name is Vidya. I'm a member of
Hi, my name is Danny. I'm also a member of the club.
My name is Sarah Dominic and I'm also a member of the club.
And yeah.
So, I'm Vina. I'm also a member of the Entrepreneurship.
I'm Nina, member of the club.
Hello everyone, I'm Surya and I'm also a member of the club. I'm Chairman and I'm also a member.
So, in fact, the first year we have a very tough task ahead. No, in fact, a lot of people come and ask me, what is the social entrepreneurship all about? In fact, that will be our prime motive in the first year. We need to understand how we can tell people what is social entrepreneurship all about. And today we have the best person to introduce the concepts to you. And without wasting a lot of time on my speech, let me go to my actual work today of welcoming dignitaries. Today's chief guest is Mr. Vishnu Swaminathan, and even though I know him personally before coming to Rajagiri, he is been working in this field of social entrepreneurship for the past 10 years in various capacities, starting from College of Governance in Pune, heading an innovation foundation based at Ahmedabad, and then heading Ashoka's initiative of Housing for All, and later becoming the country director of Ashoka itself. He's been one of the pioneers in terms of bridging the gaps between the actual practitioners of business and the actual practitioners of social activities. So he's been there, scouted social entrepreneurs, worked with them. So I thought he will be the best suited person to introduce and inaugurate the concept of social entrepreneurship and the social entrepreneurship club of Rajagiri. On behalf of the gathering here, I extend you a very warm welcome to this inaugural function. The other dignitaries on the dais doesn't require a welcome, but just for formality, I need to extend on my warmest welcome to our principal, Dr. Vishnu Joseph, and I also extend my warmest welcome to our Assistant PhD Chairman, Dr. Alex. Now, last but not least, my faculty colleagues who are present over here, also my fellow students. I welcome you wholeheartedly to this inaugural function. Thank you.
Next, I call upon our principal, Professor Vishnu Joseph, to deliver the presidential address.
सूर्यकोटि समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Career that they get to know social entrepreneurship and they can use this to whatever they do in their career. So I'm really looking forward to some of you picking up these ideas and working on it. That's why I'm so delighted to be here. So firstly, thank you so much for having me here. So I asked Abhilash, what should I be speaking on and how long should I speak? He told me you can speak for an hour. And I was like, oh my God, please save all the people who are there. So I made a decision that I'm going to be very crisp and very simple. But if any of you find me annoying, just lift your hand. I'll stop. I really mean it. So it's very important to work with you guys. So please let me know if I'm really troubling you or giving you too much information. The second thing I was just telling Abhilash also is that I'm probably going to say things which are going to be very counter to what you are learning in your textbooks. So you'll have to bear with me for that. Because I am not an academician. I am a person who has learned everything from the ground. So whatever I have learned from the ground is what I'm going to share with you. So please bear with me if there is a lot of disconnect between what you are studying and what you are hearing from me. And I'm happy to argue and debate about it. So that's the part. So, many people have asked me this question in the past. What is social entrepreneurship? What the hell is social entrepreneurship? Why should somebody become a social entrepreneur? So the starting point of all that is, I want to say that business today cannot be usual anymore. Right? Do you agree with me on that? 20 years ago, if you were running a business, whether you start your own business or you're working for someone, you need not care about the environment. But today it's not the case. I think Kerala was the first to chase Pepsi away or Coke away, right? Because you know that even though it's a company doing business, you cannot harm the environment. So business is no longer usual. Business has to be different. So social is no longer a term which is added to business anymore. We'll talk more about it. Now we'll talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Now I want to say that when we talk about social entrepreneurship, the first thing to remember is entrepreneurship in spirit. Don't take the word entrepreneurship and say, I have to be a business guy to do social entrepreneurship. That's not the case. Entrepreneurship in spirit. Can you be resilient? Will you not give up? Will you really do what you really believe in? That is the spirit which is needed for social change. It's not business sense of being an entrepreneur. That's what I'm going to start with. The other thing is social, right? The word social is like a connotation which says, oh, you know what? I was just sharing this experience with Professor earlier that 20 years ago, if somebody in your family told you, I'm going to become a social worker, what did you think of him or her? The first image we had in the mind is that, oh, the guy or a girl with a kurta pajama and Hawaiian chappal and a cloth bag on the side, that is a social worker. This was how social workers were perceived for many, many years. People perceived people who are doing activism as social workers. People who do charity as social workers. But now it's no longer the case. You take Professor Yunus, we will talk about him in a minute. He transformed the lives of millions of women across the world by using a business idea. And today he says the business idea of social transformation is the most critical, not just being a social worker, right? So please don't associate the word social to a traditional person, doing a social work alone. I actually like a better word, which is called change maker. right? Change maker is an interesting word because all of us have to be a change maker to survive in the future, right? Let's say you go for a job, right? Meaning you go for an interview, campus placement, you go for an interview. So how do you distinguish yourself from millions of other MBA people available for the same job? Right? You can say, you know what, I'll do exactly what the company wants me to do. Do you think you're going to get the job? No. This is where we start. This is the economic pyramid of India. Now the economic pyramid is even more skewed, right? Meaning you can't see it like this. I don't know how many of you know this. In 2013, 300 people in the world own the wealth of 3.5 billion people. Only 300 people own the wealth of 3.5 billion people. 50% of wealth was held by 300 people. You know what is scary? That number became 67 last year. So now 67 people own the wealth of 3.5 billion people. Right? So you can imagine how the pyramid is going to look, right? The pyramid will be like this. It's no longer like this. Right? So now if you look at this, what we identified was the first thing is find your place. Whatever work you're doing, go find your place first. Where will your impact be the most? So we realized that the bottom of the pyramid, if some of you have not read the book on bottom of the pyramid by Dr. C.K. Prahlad, please read it. I'm sure it's there in your library. That's the Bible of people who are working in the social sector and the development sector, but not seeing it from a charity landscape. He actually said, bottom of the pyramid, how do you make profits by looking at serving the poverty? That's what he said. So then we realized that the bottom is not flat, it has to have one more pyramid within it, because there are multiple layers of people who are poor. You know, in India, if you go to a slum, you actually can see affluent slums. There's a coin only in India, where you know you can go, people actually have Maruti 800s and nano cars in slums today. It's not a joke, you know, it's really possible, you can go and see it. Now you have to, if you're creating a product for them, you have to create a different product for them rather than the person who does not have any money at all. So that is a very different situation in India. So this is the work what we did, the houses we built is behind. So this is about people who cannot buy a house. I don't know how many of you know this statistic. 3% of Indians pay income tax. Do you know this? Only 3% of the population in India pays income tax. 97% of the people don't pay income tax. Right? So if you don't pay income tax, can you get a mortgage or a housing loan? How is it possible? The first thing they will ask you is where is your Saran form and where is your whatever filing form, right? Now 97% of the people don't pay income tax in the cities. In Cochin, I can promise you 97% of the people cannot get a housing loan. But it's a huge market. People need to buy houses. So we created those houses only for people without an income statement. Right? So what is that you can do? So we looked at that group of people and said we'll only look at people without an income statement. And we did these houses. Anyway. Now this is a story, I'm going to just share stories with you. So it's easy for you to understand. Now these are two women who live in a slum in Bogota. They live in a slum in Bogota in Colombia. Now the one in the red shirt was basically telling an Ashoka fellow or a social entrepreneur that she wanted to improve her house by buying ceramic tiles. This was the year 2008. So she said, I want to improve my house by buying ceramic tiles. So we got to know this and we said, what is the problem? Why can't you buy ceramic tiles and improve your house? The first problem, nobody was willing to give them a loan. Nobody was willing to give them a loan to buy tiles. The second problem was that the tiles which were available were very expensive for their cost, or whatever their preference was. So we took this problem to a large ceramic tile manufacturer. We said, you have been manufacturing tiles and here is a problem, can you do something about it? The company said, we will make a specific brand of tiles for the low income community. We'll call it Iberica. And we'll brand it and we'll put it together. And what they did was, they trained 280 women like the one in the red t-shirt and said, we will train the women to distribute the tiles. 280 women were trained to distribute tiles in the slums. They first improved their house, and then they started going around and telling people they can use these tiles. The company gave loans for the first year. Guess what? After 1 year, by 2009 end, the company had sold $12.7 million worth of tiles. Only through 280 women. Right? Now imagine a market unlocking of $12.7 million by 280 women. Now that is why you have to look at, actually was altering, he was cutting a lot of cloth and stitching it back and giving it. He realized, oh my God, I am collecting cloth but I am cutting so much cloth. Right? He was wasting a lot of cloth. He said, how can I waste? Right? So then you know what he did? This is where the beauty of the model comes out. After 5 years, after he became a Robin Hood, he did this after 5 years. What did he do? He started taking the cut cloth and made it into cloth sanitary napkins. Today, he is the largest manufacturer of cloth sanitary napkins in the country. Stitched by women, given to rural women. Now, there's a business model here. He was charging 1 rupee, 2 rupee, whatever is the women were making money. Cloth was not wasted. Great idea. So you see, model came out. Then something interesting he spotted. He went to a village, right? He goes to villages all across. Everybody sits and complains, "Arey, road barbaad ho gaya, nobody is taking care of my roads." Right? So you know what he said? Can you fix your own road? He said, why should I fix? He said, I'll pay you by cloth. So he started this campaign called Cloth for Work. So today, in the villages, people are fixing their own problems and getting paid by cloth. So you see how a model evolves. Even at the starting point there was no model, right? So he basically creates now what is called as cloth as a monetary equivalent. But he did not start with that. So what I am telling you is that please don't worry about model when you are starting. Please worry about what will you do? What is the impact you are going to cause? That's much more important than the model. I don't know how many of you know this guy. His name is Elon Musk. He's one of the famous billionaires. He started many. So he was one of the guys who founded PayPal. So he took a lot of money from there. He invested into companies after that, completely. Not even took 1 rupee or $1 out of it. Invested in all the companies. Now this guy started this company called Tesla Motors, right? Now Tesla has created the world's fastest electric sports car, and he is selling it in tons and all of that. Why is this company important? Something interesting happened in June 16, 2014. You know what did they do? They said all their patents, 800 of them at the time, patents, right? You know patents, intellectual property, right? They said everything will become open source. And they said future, whatever patents we create will also become open source. Now this is the future. Why is this the future? What are you taught in business schools? Your valuation depends on intellectual property, right? How will you value Tesla now? What I am trying to tell you is that intellectual property is going away. What is happening here is we have to let go. Elon is not stupid. He's not actually saying you take my idea and you become whatever and kill me. No. He's actually saying we'll do it together. The electric car industry must change, not Tesla. Right? This is the future. Now always ask yourself, what will be the impact of my idea rather than the size of my organization? Don't grow your organizations, or don't think about growing only your organizations. Think about growing the idea. The idea here is electric cars. It's not about, so now you know people have taken the battery pack idea and they're powering homes. They're actually doing all kinds of things. Chinese have taken the technology, now they can legally copy. They take the technology, making their own electric cars for China. Fantastic. But the electric car industry is moving, not Tesla alone. This is very important for you to know. Always ask yourself in business, what am I going to let go? This is the most, if I told this to a bunch of entrepreneurs, they'll say you're stupid. Right? Because traditionally you are always supposed to hold it. You hold your knowledge. Pharma industry is the only industry today which survives on patents. That's also going to go away very soon. But that's what we need to do right now. Now, this is a very interesting guy. So this guy's name is Bart Begens. Now, he's from the Netherlands. Now, as a child when he was growing up, All he wanted was a pet as a rat. He wanted a rat as a pet. I don't know how many of us even want to see a rat. But he said, I want a pet which is a rat. Why is it interesting? Of course he was liking rats and all of that. But then he was reading newspapers and then he realized that in Africa, a lot of people were dying because of landmines. Right? Because people in war zones plant landmines and the war is over, but nobody is taking the credit. What do? You replicate your idea. Companies are fantastic with it. Banks is a very good example. You set up one branch, you become very good. What do? You replicate. You open multiple branches all over the place. That is replicating direct service, right? But what we believe is that's not good enough, right? So this is where all the companies grow. But for social change, you have to be one step ahead of this. What is that one step? Is pattern or systemic change. How many of you know Professor Mohammed Yunus? Have you all heard of Professor Yunus? Right? The guy who created microcredit, right? So he was in Chittagong, a village in Chittagong where he saw women. He went and started Grameen Bank, direct service. He went all over Bangladesh, same problem. What did he do? Replicate his idea, opened up multiple branches, replicating direct service. Systemic change of Professor Yunus happened, when? When he said, Kolkata was next door, no? From Dhaka and Kolkata is very next door. He said he could have very easily opened up a branch in Calcutta and said, here is my branch in India. He did not do that. He said, I'm going to stop opening branches. He said, now I'm going to invite, why are you being racist? How can you be racist? It's changed. 1996, when I first got my first mobile phone, or that time pagers were very, I don't know how many of you know pagers. I had a pager. And today pagers are gone. SMS is dead. We use WhatsApp. Right? This is a shift in thinking, right? Meaning, how many of us pay for, a number of SMSs per month? We were charged like that once. Many of you remember. Today there's not. This is a shift in our thinking. Somebody did it, right? Wikipedia. 10 years ago, Jimmy Wales, the founder of Wikipedia, he was standing in this table and saying, I am going to start a website which is going to be the open source encyclopedia. Anybody can edit, anybody can use it. People will be like, you're gone crazy. Right? Now today, I cannot tell my son is 8 years old. I cannot go and tell my son that when I was growing up, I had 28 books in my bookshelf called Britannica Encyclopedia. How many of you have seen it? There you go. Can you tell your children this, that you had books in your bookshelf called Britannica Encyclopedia? They'll be like, you stupid mom, stupid dad. Why would you lock encyclopedia in a book? This shift is taken less than 10 years.
Once about low-income housing.
Yes.
From our platform of papers here. Can you tell something about what you did? Because we would like to know about it.
Oh, okay. So basically, like I said, when we started, we were seeing this big, huge problem in society where 97% of the people living in urban areas were not getting housing, right? So these were, classic example I'll give you is an auto rickshaw driver, right? Meaning an auto rickshaw driver earns enough in any city in India to be able to buy or give a mortgage of up to 4,000 rupees a month, right? 4,000 to 5,000 they can give mortgage, right? Because they are collectively earning. If you take the auto rickshaw driver, his wife, they are collectively earning around 20,000 to 25,000 rupees. They can spend up to 30% of their income on mortgage or rental, whatever it is, like all of us do. 30% is the average for Indians to give it for mortgage, and sometimes people go up to 35 because their aspirations are higher. We spend more money on mortgage. So we said if somebody can pay 4,000 to 5,000 rupees as mortgage, they need a house which is valued around 6 lakh rupees, right? So that is a reverse calculation. So 6 lakh rupees can be built a house, and no subsidies from the government. What can you do for 6 lakh rupees, right? So an average price today, if you take, in the outskirts of the city, you can actually make a decent house for 2,000 rupees a square feet, right? So if you take 2,000 rupees a square feet and you take 6 lakh rupees, you can actually produce a house which is 300 square feet, right? And sell it at profit. 2,000 rupees is not that you're doing a charity, right? In 2,000 rupees you can still buy some land and build some units and still make decent profit. But nobody was doing it. So we asked, why is nobody building such houses? So the first problem was, who are the buyers? Because nobody has dealt with an auto rickshaw driver. Nobody understands an auto rickshaw driver and the maid who's his wife to build a house. So we said, okay, we will work with social organizations to bring the customers to you. That means we'll aggregate the demand. The second biggest question, who's going to give them the mortgage? Who's going to give them the housing loan? So just to give you an interesting thing, in 2009, there were 5 institutions which were willing to provide housing finance for people without income statement. Only 5 in the whole country. Today, luckily, there are 20. But at that time, there were only 5. So, so we said, okay, let's work with people to create this new market for mortgage. So we were successful, we got a lot of people involved. So we brought 3 things together. For-profit developers, social organizations to aggregate demand, and for-profit housing finance companies come together and create housing. So it's basically bringing these unusual people to come together and produce housing and meeting the needs of the customers. That's kind of what we did. So we realized that we built around 15,000 homes in 2 years, that this market was possible, but then we said, let's stop. Why? Because the market demand was 25 million homes. Right? Or it's actually 25 million, it's 2.5 crores, right? 2.5 crores houses were need to be built. So we were building 15,000. So how much can we do? So we said we'll stop it, but then we look at how do we catalyze lakhs and lakhs of housing. So we found some insights, and one of the insights was that housing is the only product in this country which does not come with a warranty. You buy a mobile phone today, it comes with 12 months warranty. You buy a house paying 50 lakh rupees, the roof leaks after 2 or 3 months, the developer is not liable to fix it. If it is a case of 50 lakh home, imagine a 5 lakh home. Why do we have to reduce? Because the idea is not to. So the major problem we face is that affordable housing was equal to low cost housing or cheap housing. So we wanted to change it. We said affordable housing need not be cheap housing. High quality small spaces was our logic. We said, how can you make a quality of the space very good, still produce housing at scale? So that's what we did, and now we have created India's first affordable housing rating system. So which is now being used by many developers. We are now rating the projects, etc., etc. Profits must go to CSR, right? The CSR law is kind of very good, everybody is talking about it. But the problem again goes back to what I said. 67 people owning the wealth of 3.5 billion, right? Now, of course, the 67 people can still say, you know what, I made the money, now I'll give it away. Everybody does that, Gates does it, Facebook founder now wants to give charity. So that's one model, I'm not against it. That's important for the world, I think it's one way of doing it. But what I'm saying is the future is not going to be like that, and we cannot let it be like that. The future is about making your business so strong that you're actually co-creating the wealth, right? So you co-create your wealth. We're not saying you should not become rich. As a business entrepreneur, profits is your motive, you should become rich. But how do you co-create it? How do you make sure that you are not taking from everyone, but you are sharing it with everyone? How do you strategically define your program? So that is why I am a strong believer that maybe in 10 years' time, social entrepreneurship will not exist. For the good reasons. The good reason because every business will become social. You don't need social business anymore separately. You don't need an entrepreneur which is called a social entrepreneur. Every entrepreneur will become social by nature. That's the future. Meaning, it may take 10 years, 15 years, whatever. But that's how the fields are coming together. That is why I was suggesting to Abhilash that, all the social work people should be here. Right? Because it has to be a connected ability. We cannot see that, it's our job to convince the business people to become social. No. It's both ways. So that's the merger which is going to happen. And that's the future. But that is CSR and giving profits away is good, but that's not going to be the end of all. Yes.
Thanks for such a wonderful session, sir. Sir, my question is, business basically is run because of the need. Our need may be profit or something else. But social
business is profit.
Means like something profit. But the social entrepreneurship. How can a person do a social entrepreneurship without emotionally attachment? Like you showed some examples, sir. They have some a little bit emotionally attachment with their things, sir. If a person is not attached with emotionally, how can he or she carry on following out that activity, sir?
So I think it's how you define emotional attachment, right? So for example, for me, before I started my work in housing, I didn't know what an FSI meant or how a building gets built. I had no idea. I am not a civil engineer. I am not an architect. I know nothing about it, right? Now, what is my emotional attachment to housing? I'm just giving you my personal example, right? So, I am emotionally attached to the problem, right? That people, 97% of the people not getting housing is a problem. I am attached to that, right? Now I work on malnutrition. I told you the statistics. 50% of children under the age of 5 are malnourished. As any human being, there has to be an emotional attachment to a problem. If 65% of our pregnant women are anemic, something is wrong, right? So you become attached to the problem and the passion of solving it, rather than, I think, in business also you have to be passionate, right? Meaning your emotions and passions go together. Meaning, you cannot be emotionally detached from your business, right? Meaning, because of money making and your idea is so important, you will do it. So, I don't think you should see emotional attachment as a barrier. I think emotional attachment will drive you to do even better.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Good evening, sir. So I'm Nikhilesh, first year PGDM student. So my question is that what do you think about the enabling environment for the social entrepreneurs in our country, India, presently and 10 years back? We have been in this field for past 10 to 15 years. How do you see yourself from 10 years to now?
So I think, one thing all of us as Indians have to be proud of. India is the place where social innovation is the best. I am not saying it because I am an Indian and I work in India. No. This is the truth. Everybody around the world, if they want to learn about social innovation, they come to India. This is the place for social innovation. There's no question about it. Because one, you can set up an
idea or they saw, but like as students from scratch, what?
Right? So if you consciously look around, you will see millions of challenges every day. Right? Meaning somebody in the home, I'll give you my personal inspiration, right? Meaning, I love my grandmother, right? All of us do. My grandmother is 84 years old. She's still, now she's 88. Very strong woman, still she cooks for herself, she eats and everything. She has a small farmland, right? So I used to go and talk to her whenever I was in my home, and I was sitting there and she was cooking and all of that, and then she wanted to serve the people working in the farm, right? And she brought the food and asked them to pluck a leaf and come to eat. I said, why are you giving them in a leaf? Why can't you give them a plate? She couldn't accept my logic, right? She's my grandmother. I love her, right? But this is something which I am not able to accept. Why is there discrimination in my own family? And I'm telling you, I have failed miserably. I have still not been able to convert my grandmother. Right? But my mother, I have done a lot. She's much better, right? So inspiration starts from there. What do you see which bothers you? There are so many things around you which will bother you. There will be something or the other. Some discrimination, some pothole in the road, something will
Very difficult to back on a fast ticket after the master blaster.
performance. But then I start off with a basic assumption. The assumption is businesses are for society. Now, if businesses are for societies, then I have two basic questions, which is basically a convention of debate between myself and Professor Abhilash for long. We are not able to resolve it. The basic questions are, one is, who is an entrepreneur? Second one is, who is a social entrepreneur? So, I was looking out for certain attributes of who really is an entrepreneur. We say that he should have a purpose, he should be motivated, he should have the audacity. But then I was just looking out for the best definition of who is an entrepreneur. According to me, I may be wrong, but then according to me, an entrepreneur is one who creates a sustainable future. He doesn't wait for the future to happen, he creates his sustainable future. And not just his, but then for all of us. I mean, the examples what Vishnu sir was talking about was all about creating the future. They never waited for anything for them to happen. Now, if it is all about sustainability in a business, there should be three elements. One is, it should support the environment, it should support people, and no doubt, it should make profits or returns. Now, that takes me to the next question, who is a social entrepreneur? Social entrepreneurship is the attempt to draw upon business techniques to find solutions to specific social problems. Or in other words, the focus here is a positive return to society, or in economics we call it as externality. Now there's a whole lot of similarity, there's a whole lot of overlap between entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship, but at the same time there is definitely certain sets of separation as well. I think that was what was highlighted here. Now, doing some desk research on types of social entrepreneurship is not really important because you need to solve issues in the society and then you need to create a future for the society by creating a future for yourself. That is the idea behind it. But then I was doing some desk research and I found that there are three types of social entrepreneurships. One is the leverage non-profit, which is nothing but make innovative use of available funds in order to impact a need. The second type was hybrid non-profit. It is willing to use profit to sustain its operations. The third one is social business venture, which itself has evolved through a lack of funding, where social entrepreneurs in such a situation were forced to become for-profit ventures. Now I was just out of curiosity looking out for who are some leading international organizations in the area of social entrepreneurship. I could find Ashoka as one, followed by names like the Scholar Foundation, the Omdeya Network, the SWAP Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. Now with this contemplation of the context into which what Mr. Vishnu Swaminathan was speaking to us for the last probably 45 minutes, I, with immense sense of satisfaction and happiness, entered to my assigned task. I profusely thank Mr. Vishnu Swaminathan, India Country Director Ashoka, who through his valuable presence and inaugural address, through his insights, have made this function enriched. Thank you so much. In substance, he is an experienced social entrepreneur and innovator working on grassroots innovation. One prominent work which he has undertook and then introduced to us by Professor Abhilash in his couple of years here was affordable housing for the urban dwellers. So we have benefited very much from your presence here today. The rolling out of the Social Entrepreneurship Club Rajagiri reminds me or tells me in the affirmative that many new initiatives in the different themes of social entrepreneurship involving the grassroots will be jointly initiated by Rajagiri students and its faculty for the communities around. This inauguration is an end by itself to a new beginning. And I'm not just making this remark casually, but then after having heard your questions, I find that